Greetings one and all from the Holy Land, the Holy Apple, the Holy Hilltop, Tal Binyamin. Hope everybody had a meaningful 10th of Tevet fast. Today we are on Monday the 16th of Tevet 5782. Today's title of our class, in parentheses, once again, this is part 3. But today's title is the IDF a Jewish army? Is the IDF a Jewish army? Okay, folks, last week we spoke about the Torah perspective, ideology behind those that, though they might be wicked in many facets of life, between man and fellow man, between man and God, whatever it might be, if a person has a merit of protecting the Jewish people, taking blows in order to protect the Jewish people, that is a tremendous card. It is tremendous merit that a person has, and they are considered to be the highest of the highs. Even though, once again, on a day-to-day, on their personal life, they were not righteous at all. Some of them were wicked. But because they had this tremendous commandment of protecting and saving the Jewish people, this was able to lift them far beyond the average Jew and even the righteous Jews. Okay, today there's an interesting Gemara in the Talmud and Tractate of Megillah, page 16, side B. Rav Yosef says the following, that the study of Torah is greater than the saving of lives. That's a pretty amazing statement. Once again, you didn't hear things. You heard correctly. According to Rav Yosef, the studying of Torah is greater than the saving of lives. How do we know that? We learn this from Mordechai, the hero of the Purim story. In the beginning, in the Torah, we see that when Mordechai, his name was mentioned in the Torah, he was named the fourth scholar. There's a list of different scholars in his time. He was number 4 on the list. Now, I know that the Winter Olympics are coming up in Beijing. I don't know I know they don't have a 4th medal. There's the gold and there's the silver and the bronze. But anyways, Mordechai got the 4th medal, whatever it might be. However, when Mordechai, after the story of Purim, when his name is brought down again with a list of Torah scholars, he went down one notch. Now he's not in 4th place, he's in 5th place. So the question is, what changed? Why did his status go down? Today everyone has their own status, so we could relate to this. So the reason why is that because of the fact that to show us that when Mordechai was involved with Torah study, he was 4th on the list. However, when he was trying to save the Jewish people, he fell one notch. Even though it's a tremendous, important commandment to save the Jewish people, he still fell a notch. Now, on the surface, this seems to be very, very bizarre, and it seems to contradict every Jewish law that we know, that danger to one's life takes precedence over almost all 99% of our commandments. So it seems very unusual, and it's something that we have to delve into more deep and understand exactly, because this is used, I've heard this used in many debates or discussions between rabbis and others. So this is an important point to clarify here. Okay, so let's just get it straight again. Our previous class, the second one, where is our outrage? We talked about the tremendous position, the lofty pedestal that Jews that go out to protect even one Jew, how much more so a community, how much more so a nation of Jews. There are no higher Jews than these people. We saw, even though they might be evil, but if they have this merit in their pocket, that they protect and save Jews, they're way above everyone else, including Torah scholars. So how does this jive and gel with this Rabbi Yosef telling us that the study of Torah is greater than saving lives? Okay, answer, we have 7 answers. So we're going to, with God's help, we're going to go by quickly. Answer number 1. What Rav Yosef meant, that Torah study is greater than saving lives, we're talking about not your average bear scholar. We're talking about a minority of Jews who learn and learn and learn and then learn some more. This is a minority of minority. There are Jews. There are handfuls of such Jews. We know there are 36 righteous Jews that keep the world going. But this is a minority of a minority. People that learn Torah during the day, the morning, the afternoon, maybe a little bit in the evening. We still do a lot of things on the side which is not connected to Torah. They're not talking about us. They're talking about a handful of people that do not stop learning, do not waste a minute of time. Of course, they eat, yes. You have to eat. They do sleep, yes, but to a minimal. Also eating and also sleeping, it's extremely minimal of minimal. So we're talking about a handful of people. Answer number 2, this answer was brought down in the book Divrei Shalom Ve'emet on page 232, volume 3. Answer number 2, what Rabbi Yosef was saying, that Torah learning is greater than saving lives, this is referring to a person who teaches a multitude of students, like Mordechai. It says in the Talmud, in the same tractate of Megillah, I don't remember the second what page it was on, but it says that Mordechai was responsible, he was the dean, I guess we could call him the dean or the president, of 22,000 young Torah students. Whoa, that's big time, 22,000. So this opinion, this explanation of the words, the difficult words of Rav Yosef, are explained only to a person who has a responsibility of many children. We're talking about the children under the age of 13 for a male or 12 for a girl. This opinion is brought down by the Rif, not the Rif on the Talmud. There's a Rif, Rabbi Yitzchak Pinto, on the Ein Yaakov, the famous Ein Yaakov set, on, once again, Tractate Megillah, page 16, side B. So, a person who's responsible for the learning of massive amounts of kids, of Jewish kids, their Torah study is more important. Their job to keep the Torah students going is more important than saving lives, because the fact that the continuation of Torah, of the Torah of children, Torah which has no sin, because up until 13 you are clean. If you have a clean slate, you have no sin. So this kind of person who's responsible for the Torah of the masses of children, such a person, his job of keeping these institutions going, influencing, giving talks, giving classes, preparing, you have to prepare. This is greater than saving lives. Answer number 3. This answer is given to us by Rabbi Yoshua Polek Katz. He has a commentary on Jewish law on the Tur. It's called the Prisha. He lived in the year 1555. So, in his commentary on Jewish law, Yoredea 251, Law 13, he writes there that this statement by Rabbi Yosef is applicable only when there are others available to save lives. If there are other people, another person who can go out and save lives, then my learning is more important than going out and stopping the learning and saving lives, only because that there are other people to do the commandment. There are other people to do the commandment. Now, this is important because we see from here that depending on what the situation is, there's definitely a case here, and a good case, to say that the army, when they sit down and when they figure out how many soldiers they believe are necessary in order for us to be safe here in the land of Israel, if they don't need beyond a certain amount of hundreds of thousands of people, so of course the people that learn Torah should continue learning Torah in order to protect, of course, the Torah. At the end of the day, this is what is protecting the Torah and the commandments. Of course, one of the commandments is to go out and protect. As we said, don't stand idly by your brother's blood. There's a positive commandment of obligatory wars. There are a lot of commandments here that are connected to, yes, going out and fighting. But without getting into detail, if there are enough fighters, and we do not necessarily need the yeshiva people, so the yeshiva people should continue their battle of learning Torah in order to help the military front. So this is the response of Rabbi Yoshua Polek. If there are others that can go out, continue learning. If there are no other people and you're the best suited for this, they might be able to go out, but you're not sure of the results. They could get they could get messed up themselves, or they could endanger themselves. You are fit for it. You go out and you stop your learning and go out to save, because that is the more important commandment right now. Okay, answer number 4. This is by the Taz. He's a commentator on the Code of Jewish Law, the Shulchan Aruch. His name was Rabbi David Halevi Segel. He lived in 1586. So the Taz says, of course, it goes without saying that saving lives takes precedence over learning Torah or over any commandment. However, that's not the discussion by Rabbi Yosef. Rabbi Yosef is not telling us that if you see somebody in danger an individual, a community, a village, a city, a nation, that of course everything takes a backstage to saving lives. This is what happens on Shabbat, on Shabbos. If we have not only a danger of life, if there's a question mark danger, then we desecrate the Holy Shabbos, which the Holy Shabbos is equal to all the other commandments of the Torah. It goes without saying, says the Taz. However, so what is Rav Yosef saying? If always the saving of life takes precedence over all the commandments, so what is he trying to tell us? That the learning of Torah is greater than saving lives. Listen to this Taz. Listen to this explanation. One has more merit if he does not need to go out and save lives than one that is bound and must go out and save lives. We're talking about how much merit, according to the Taz, we are talking about how much merit a person has. So a person that does not need to go out and save Jews, because there are other people, there are enough to go around to save the Jews, such a person has more merit that God does not invite, God does not arrange for him to come into a situation where he would be forced to stop his learning of the Torah. Such a person has more merit than a person that goes out and is faced with the situation of a danger and they must act, they must go out. So we're not talking about what takes precedent. Of course, if one is faced with a danger of life, there are no questions here. You close your book. You close your Torah book and you go out and save. That's not the question here. That wasn't the point of Rabbi Yosef's statement. He was just coming along and to tell us that a person who learns Torah and it does not come into a situation where it is needed to save lives, that person has more merit than a person that is faced during his life, 1, 2, it doesn't matter how many. A person has more merit that does not need to go out and save lives. That's what he was saying. Answer number 5. This is brought down by the Or HaChaim HaKadosh, Rabbi Chaim Atar. He lived in 1696. In his book, Rishon LeZion, Teachings on Tractate Megillah, page 33, listen to this. When the Talmud says greater, this is in a case where there is no imminent danger at present. However, just to be on the safe side, a person remains, for example, in a government position, perhaps one day there will come again a danger. This is very interesting. This exactly fits the description of Mordechai. We were saying that Rav Yosef, to prove his point that the study of Torah is greater than saving of lives, he brings down the proof of Mordechai, that Mordechai lost his status. He was in 4th place, and then he became 5th. But when are we talking about? We're not talking about during the story of Purim. During the story of Purim, he is the hero. And Esther are the heroes for going out to save the Jewish people. That we're not talking about. Mordechai, after the story is over, and the evil Haman, must hit that name, when he bit the dust, when he was hanged and his sons were hanged, and the story was over, and the Jews went out and avenged what the Gentiles were planning to do to them. 75,000 people, 75,000 Jew haters, anti-Semites, Persian anti-Semites, just bit the dust. Mordechai thinks to himself, what am I going to do now? Okay, the danger is over. Not only that, the Gentiles feared the Jewish people. The Gentiles started becoming Jews. They started dressing like Jews. It reminds me, once I was raising money for Rabbi Kahana's Talmudic study, yeshiva. And I was in Los Angeles. I remember it like it was today. I was on Venice Boulevard in a black neighborhood, and I got stopped at a light, and these two girls in a car next to me stopped by, and they said they saw that I had the side curls, and they said, man, where did you get that haircut? Where did you get that haircut? I'd like to have one on my brother. You know, so like, they were like freaking out. You know, they were saying they were enjoying this, you know, these side curls. I guess they had never seen that before. So folks, we see that the Gentiles were beginning even to dress like Jews. And they were very fearful of the Jews. You can understand, they just blew away 75,000, you know, family or friends of theirs. So Mordechai is deliberating what to do. Should he continue on in the government? Maybe one day, someday, there will come again a threat to the Jewish people, and now he's in position. He has his government position. He's right there, and he could perhaps annul the decree. However, perhaps there's no need. Perhaps it will not happen again. This was a question in his mind. Mordechai decided that even though there was no imminent danger to the Jewish people, it was all over. He was worried that perhaps at some time the crazy cuckoo Achashverosh, this kook guy, maybe he would come back with another decree against the Jewish people. So therefore, in order to be extra cautious, Mordechai decided to stay in the government. Now, when you decided to stay in the government, your Torah learning is going to be a minimal. That's for sure. You have your duties. The government, is paying you, so they're paying you to do what you have to do. This is according to the Orach Chaim. This is a great take on it. What Rabbi Yosef says, that the studying of Torah is great. He's not talking about if there's a danger. If there's a danger to Jewish life, the study of Torah is not greater than saving lives. You must close your books and you must go out to save lives. We're talking about there was no imminent danger to the Jewish people. There was no question mark of, are the Jews in danger? Are they going to be annihilated? It wasn't a question. He decided, just to make extra certain that nothing happens again, I'm going to stay in my position. Okay, you have to pay a price. You pay a price for that. Answer number 6. According to the Bach, Beit Chadash, Rabbi Yoel Sirkish lived in 1561. On the Jewish Code, Yoredea, 251, chapter, Law 6. He says the following: there are two issues here. This Gemara has two issues. There's honor and there's money, monetary issues. As far as honor, one that is able to learn Torah without being faced during their life with saving lives. Most of us live our lives in situations where we're not going out and saving lives. Most of us, that's how we live. We're not confronted with such situations where we have to decide, okay, what do I do now? Do I endanger myself? Do I go out? Do I close my books? Usually we're not faced with such situations. So, as far as honor is concerned, one that learns Torah receives greater honor than those that go out and save lives. This, according to the Bach, this is a Jewish way to look at things. Who do we give honor to? And so, the Bach is giving us this privy information that in the realms of heaven, in the spiritual realms of heaven, in the true world, those that labor at studying Torah, but really studying Torah, we're not talking about people that are, that study for a minute and then joke around for 5 minutes. We're talking about, as we said before, serious Torah learners that take every minute, every second very seriously at their job of learning Torah. We know that the learning of Torah keeps the world going. If there was a second where there would be no Torah learning in the world would go back to its situation before the creation. So as far as honor is concerned, those that participate in Torah and do not face the challenge of saving people's lives, those people have more honor than those that go out and save lives, or those that are challenged with saving people's lives. As far as monetary issues, there is a law that is brought down it's brought down in the Tur on Yoredea 251. It's brought down in the name of the Rosh that if there was money given to Torah institutions and now all of a sudden we need it to protect Jewish people. For example, he gives an example, if there are Jewish captives, Jews have been taken captives and they're demanding ransom for these Jews, then you are allowed to take the money that was donated for the study of Torah. You are allowed to use it in order to save Jewish lives. So it seems to the Tur and seems to the Rosh and others, we see very clearly from here that the study of Torah does not take precedence over saving Jewish lives. Actually, it's the opposite, that you were allowed to use money that was donated specifically for the study of Torah. There was a telethon for various yeshivot study, Jewish study halls, and you are allowed to take all of that money and spend it on saving Jewish lives. So, the Bach says, as far as honor is concerned, honor Jews that study Torah and are not faced with a challenge of saving people's lives. They don't come into contact with such situations. They are able to continue their study learning, their studying. Those people have more honor in the eyes of heaven than those that are not able to do that. As far as money is concerned, there is no question that money has precedes, okay, the money for Talmud Torah lives, living, saving people precede the learning of Torah. So therefore, that's okay. There are two laws here. Honor is one law, and as far as monetary issues, when it comes to money, then of course what takes precedence is the saving of Jewish lives. If you have money, you could not give it over to yeshivas to study, Jewish study halls. You could have it go to fund saving of Jewish lives. Our last answer to this perplexed Talmud is by the Khatam Sofer. Khatam Sofer, he wrote this in his discussions on the portion of Zachor, the Shabbos of Zachor. It's 193. Here's what he says. It goes without saying that one must close the books when it comes to saving people's lives. That is, once again, we know the law. Any commandment, Torah included, if we have in front of us a saving of a person's life or a questionable possibility of saving a person's life, we close the books. However, the passage in the Talmud by Rav Yosef is relaying the message that Hashem sends a mitzvah of saving lives to people that their Torah studying is less important in the eyes of God than others. The amazing Khatam Sofer. Khatam Sofer puts the cards on the table. It tells us an amazing angle to understand this Talmud, this perplexed words of the Talmud. That, of course, if we are faced with a life-saving situation, we must stop any mitzvah, including the learning of Torah. However, we should know that if Hashem brings in front of a person a danger to life, know that Hashem, that person's Torah, is not so important in the eyes of God, and therefore the person must close the book and go out to save Jewish lives. However, if God does not cause a person to be in that predicament, to be in such a situation where he comes face to face with somebody that's in a life situation, if he never comes to that reality, no, why hasn't he come to that reality? Because his learning of Torah is so precious in the eyes of heaven, they do not want to stop it. Because his Torah learning really is saving the entire world. So it's true, you might save a life, you might save many lives, but this type of Torah, a person who is learning and Hashem never brings them into a situation, into a predicament of a life dangerous situation where they must close the books, that is because their Torah is so precious in the eyes of heaven. And those that close the books of Torah, as they must, because they have to go out and protect and save Jews, their Torah learning is less precious in the eyes of Hashem, and that's why they got this mitzvah, commandment of saving people, and these other people never get that opportunity because their Torah is on a different level. Okay, so our next point is, during this despicable talk on Torah Anytime, if you're listening to the quotes, you can go back on them and on the first part. There was a lot of harsh words that this rabbi had for this elite unit called the Cherry Unit, who go out and dress up as Arabs in order to protect and save Jews from being murdered and bombs going off in cities. So, and also he boasted that instead of teaching us how to build houses, they train us to blow up houses. And he was complaining that you had to be cold as ice. You had to have no heart. How does the Torah look at such an attitude? So, we're going to look now at 3 Jewish giants that had mercy on Jewish enemies. And let's look at the Torah perspective, the Torah angle. How does it look at their mercy to the cruel nations, enemies of the Jewish people? So let's take it slow. The 3 are King Saul, number 2 is King David, and last but not least is the King Achav. So 3 who had very similar circumstances, situations, where they made a terrible choice and they had mercy. Instead of being cold as ice, instead of having no heart, which means no mercy, like the Torah demands of us sometimes, they use their emotions. They involve their emotions to bring them to their decision to have mercy on the enemy. Let's look at the results. First, King Saul. In Tractate Yoma, on page 22, side B. Listen to this, an amazing dialogue between God and King Saul. When God told King Saul, go out and destroy Amalek, King Saul said, how could this be? If for one person, we know that if one Jew is found in a place and between cities or between villages, and we do not know the perpetrator of the murder, there is a whole ceremony that takes place. It's called Eglah Rufa, where we cut the neck of a calf. So if we do not know the perpetrators of one Jewish soul, how could we go out? King Saul is asking himself, how can I go out and destroy an entire nation? If for one person, one Jew, we have this whole tribunal court and we get together and we have this ceremony, it's big time. King Saul goes further. Let's say that the Amalek people, the men, the women, the children, maybe they sinned. But how about the animals? Why is God commanding me to go out and to destroy and to kill the animals? What did they do? King Saul, he keeps on hitting. He keeps on hitting. He's coming out for more. And let's say that the people that were responsible, people that were of age, I can understand, King Saul said, I can understand taking them out, killing them, because they understand they are at of a responsible age where they're responsible for their actions. But what about kids, little kids, babies, newborns? What about them? And then a heavenly voice came out to King Saul and said, don't be overly righteous. If God commanded you to go out and wipe out the animals, wipe out the children, wipe out the people of Amalek, there is no more merciful deed than that action. Don't be more merciful than your Creator, because we're not. God is the source of all mercy. But folks, amazingly, tremendous amount of heart of King Saul. Such a good soul. It's interesting that the Talmud continues, and it tells us later on, Saul commanded Doeg the Edomite, to kill the priests, the Kohanim of the city of Nov. So once again, look at this equation. Look at this paradox. As far as the enemies of the Jewish people who are coming to destroy us, he has mercy on them. He does not wipe them out. When it came to fellow Jews, not only Jews, but the city of the Kohanim, the city of the priests, he goes out and wipes out 85 of them. No problem whatsoever. And once again, a heavenly righteous voice came out and said, don't be overly wicked. Our sages tell us in Yalkut Shimoni, in the book of Shmuel 121, Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi, the son of Levi, says, all that are merciful to the cruel, in the end will be cruel to the merciful. That is a lesson of life. It is not some. All. Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi tells us all that are merciful to the cruel will eventually be cruel unto the merciful. That's the way it works. Not only that, it was this act of so-called mercy of King Saul that almost led to the annihilation of the entire Jewish people. Who came out of King Saul saving the king of Amalek? His name was Agag. Who came out of Agag? He was allowed to live. And he gave birth eventually from his descendants. Came the evil Haman. Hit that table, make some noise. Folks, do we understand what happened? King Saul had mercy on an evil people, an evil nation. He was told by God to wipe them out. But he knows better. He has more mercy than God. And that almost brought his mercy, misplaced mercy, his heart, his full of characteristic traits, his great traits, almost brought upon the annihilation of the entire Jewish nation in the time of Purim. Let that one sink in our heads. Second, our second example is King David. I summarize and will stand. Even though we have one more king to go, we will stop here. So here we go. Summarizing the King David episode. King David was hiding from King Saul. He hid his family by the king of Moab. Excuse me. Figuring he was a relative of Ruth. We know that Ruth she was a princess in Moab. So he figured that he would be okay in this city by taking his family, making sure nothing would happen to them. He felt like he was in good hands with all state by the king of Moab. Little did he know that you cannot rely on the non-Jew. So what happened was the king of Moab killed all the relatives of King David except for one of David's brothers that was successful in escaping. He escaped to the area of Ammon. Once again, we have Moab and Ammon. They are close by. And there he was accepted into the palace by the king of Ammon. His name was Nachash, the snake. Nachash refused to extradite this brother of King David back to Moab, back to the king. Years later, this king of Ammon, Nachash, passed away, and King David sent emissaries to console to his son. His son's name was Hanun, the son of Nachash, and he sent an emissary to console the son after the loss of his father, Nachash. King David wanted to repay the kindness that was given to his brother. He wanted to show his gratitude and go and pay condolence call to the king's son. Listening to the advice of his officials, Hanun believed that they were really coming to, he was told by his advisors that they're really coming to spy the land, to check out our military secrets. So he bought into it. The king Hanun bought into this, and he cut off half of their beards and cut off half of their clothing. This was a very humiliating action against the people of Israel. Our sages in Bamidbar Rabbah 21:6 conclude that those that come to do kindness with people that God says do not approach them for peace or do not benefit them, if a Jew comes to do kindness with those that are cruel, with those that Hashem says stay away from them, they are our enemies. If somebody comes in the name of peace to such evil people, then what will happen is the following. The punishment for such appeasement, our sages tell us, is embarrassment. 1, half of their beards were cut off, half was there. Half of their pants were cut off, half was still there. I mean, today this might be the style. You know, you buy jeans and they have holes and you have to pay more money for those suckers. So, embarrassment, trouble, and war. Don't be overly righteous. Those are the words of our sages. Once again, check it out. Bamidbar Rabbah 21:6. So, King David, even though God had told us not to approach Ammon and Moab with kindness, King David did not listen, and therefore the Jewish people were humiliated. The Jewish people were afflicted, and the Jewish people eventually went to war against the Ammon nation. This was all caused by mercy, not in the right time and the right place, and not the right people. With God's help, we shall return next week. I hope for the final class. Maximum we have one more. For those that did not write their letters, please send emails to Torah Anytime demanding, on the bottom right of their website, demanding that the class by an Israeli rabbi who was in the elite unit of the Cherry unit for 5 years either delete that class or allow a rebuttal. Till next week, stay safe.